You can call us on the Great Southern Bank open line, 1300 01 1170. You can text us on the Sunrise Local Stores text line, 0457 736 736. Off and
You
running.
know what you do? You live happily clever after with Great Southern Bank.
I've heard that. I've heard that. Great Southern Bank, good people, great to have their support. It was good to hear from one of our listener in Toowoomba in the first hour. Dave gave us a call about the Dragons.
Yep.
You can talk about any club you like on our text line and our open line. And here on this Tuesday, another big day on SEN, the home of sport, the home of rugby league.
Just on the call from Toowoomba too,
Yes.
there's a text here from 866. He says, Daniel Atkinson is coming to the Dragons next season. He'll be running the team around in the halves, not Lachlan Ilias or Kyle Flanagan. Current Dragons halves are reserve grade level. Both have to play at their top every week to be an NRL half. Kyle previously played reserve grade hooker at the Dogs before the Dragons and was halfback in the past. Both would be lucky to make any NRL club in first grade in the halves, any other club.
Well, see, I disagree with that to a point. See, when the Dragons were in the firing line for the 8 last year, Flanagan's involved. Kyle Flanagan's, I thought his improvement, his influence on the team was one of the integral
one of the most
components.
Improved first graders.
Yeah, so whatever he did last year at his best was the best I'd seen him in first grade for that Dragons side.
That doesn't mean
now, does that work with
it.
Ilias? Don't know. But that total new combination.
Even though most improved, I don't know whether he gets a start in the six jumper at another club. I'm not sure about that.
As I said, ticks a box big time defensively. I thought outside of Ben Hunt, when the Dragons played their best football last year, there wouldn't have been a game where we didn't wrap the halves. They did their job. So now, whatever Flanagan had going with Ben Hunt when they played well last year has to get going to Lachlan Ilias. It's early doors. They're 0-2. Obviously, there's more scrutiny on the Dragons. If they'd have hung on and beat the Rabbitohs last week, they go into the bye. They're feeling a lot better about themselves. But who wants to be 0-2 like the Dragons
I think
are?
they're going to get a touch-up this weekend too.
Well, it's a bye this week.
Yeah, bye. That's what I mean. Touch-up.
Right, yes.
From the coach.
Yes.
Coach has got it, yeah. He said that to Lara.
Right.
Said that to Lara in the press conference. Lara, I wouldn't want to be a
stuck
Dragons player
All righty.
for the next 10 days.
David Riccio is waiting in the ring, waiting in the rings. He's just in the rings for some reason. I don't know what he's doing in the rings, but that's where he is. Let's go.
Doctor, give me the news.
On Breakfast with Vossy and Brandy, the back page with David Riccio.
The Mail, Teamless Tuesday, Brandy.
Morning, David.
Good morning. Hey, boys, just quickly on the Dragons. I appreciate there's just so much focus on NRL halves across the competition, and clearly with Saints being 0-2, there is a lot of focus on why they haven't got it done. But for me, it's all defence. They're leaking 25, 24 points first 2 rounds.
Yep.
You're not going to put yourself in the frame, and that's for me. And if you think about Shane Flanagan, he's a defence-orientated coach. I reckon that's where they have to start. They can score points. They'll be out. They've got plenty of strike with Holmes and Sloan and Leilua and Sewer and Guffo. Like, they'll score points, but it's all about defence. Has to be, particularly despite getting which should be a touch up against the bye. They play the Melbourne Storm the following week.
There were some really soft tries close to the line. Wasn't there?
Shocking.
Well, okay.
Really soft.
I'll throw a trivia question at you. Name a side that played finals football last year that's conceding 30 points a game this year. That's a trivia question.
You tell me.
Penrith.
Oh.
There we go. I'll throw that in. Just early season, 30 points a game. They conceded 22 in Vegas against the Sharks and 38 against the Roosters last week.
Yeah.
It's just a stat, just a number.
It is a number. Plenty of chat already about...
prickly Brandy. I got him, I reckon.
The Parramatta
I reckon
Eels.
I got him, folks.
Charlie, have you got that intro? Just before we... Voss is off his head. Voss has been on the pipe. Charlie, can you come here and host the show with me?
Oh, come on.
That's a walkout.
Yeah.
It's a walkout.
Jason Riles, is he going to make a change to his side? We've already spoken about the changes he made to his pack from 1 to round 2. What about the halves?
Yeah, look, certainly Dean Hawkins is right on his radar. Now, with Dean, he was in the frame before Ronald Volkman was. Unfortunately, Dean suffered an injury with only 2 weeks before season kickoff. And that just put him back in the pack as far as starting as the cover to Mitchell Moses. And Dean Hawkins came back through New South Wales Cup last week. He was pretty solid, guys. And they got that victory. I would, look, talking to Eels coaching staff, he's definitely in consideration to replace Ronald Volkman. So, look, that could be one change. We know Josh Adokar comes back from Parramatta in his first game, obviously joining the club from the Dogs. But, guys, in that cup match last weekend, there's some decent NRL talent there with Bryce Cartwright, Ryan Madison,
the whole pack.
Greg, Charlie Geimer, Kelma Tuolangi.
The whole pack could potentially be their first grade pack at some time during the season with injuries.
Absolutely.
You know? Like it could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah. Look, I'd be shocked if there's not changes.
Okay.
I would. And I appreciate that Jason Rolls is on a path here, and he's on a patient path. And there's going to be more pain, no doubt about it. But also, too, you can't just turn a blind eye to not having a dig and attitude.
Ooh. Yep.
Because that's what we saw. Like, honestly, that performance on the weekend was unbelievable.
Well, I stand by this comment. The first 20, and the Tigers weren't immune to it either. It was like two pub teams. I wasn't, as Brandy said to me yesterday, don't be disrespectful to Ron Massey Cup, so I won't be. It was lower than Ron Massey Cup level, and the weather could not.
Yeah.
The heat was not a factor at that point because the game had never got going, and the two teams were playing pedestrian football. I said at one stage in commentary, I thought I was watching a backline movement in slow motion. So slow was the ball delivered. Catch, pass, turn. It was baffling how poor it was. And sometimes, I know a commentator's role is to keep it exciting, but sometimes you just got to call what you see. You know, and it was
can't
bad.
Sugarcoat
It was so
you
bad.
Can't always sugarcoat
It was so
things.
bad.
Now the Dogs.
So bad.
Teamless Tuesday this afternoon. The Dogs, Burton and Kickow both MCL injuries. Well, they won't be playing this week. We'll sort of find out over the next 24 hours about how long they'll be out. But what do they do immediately this afternoon to name a side without those two?
Well, it's between 4 and 6 weeks for the both of them, Brandy. Vossy, for both players, it's that bracket of 4 to 6 weeks. I think the Bulldogs have got a bye, and then they play Easter Monday.
Yeah, round 6 they've got a bye. Yep.
I reckon Burton comes back round 7. I'll have a crack at that. Kickouts slightly behind him. Now, I'm certain that Satili Tupanua will move to the back row. And that's, you know, for him, he's just been one of their best performers in the first 2 rounds. So that's an easy fix. And it's just a matter of the halves for Cameron Ciraldo, who obviously shifted Stephen Crichton there during the match last weekend. But, mate, I've been out at Bulldogs training and watched that unfold at the time in pre-season. They had planned for that, Crichton shifting into the halves. And we know that he had done a job too for Samoa. While representing them. So the only catch to that, guys, is that Jacob Carrazin and Ari Tuala are both out injured. They're a bit thin out wide. So I suspect Crichton stays in the centres. And I reckon it'll be Bailey Hayward, guys. I just thought the way Bailey shifted into the role and brings energy to that position. I've talking to enough people out at the Dogs, I think Bailey Hayward would be a really strong contender to fill that half spot alongside Toby Sexton.
Okay, yep. Well, and Toby Sexton, I thought, was busy, did some good things against the Titans.
Can I just throw a little commentary too? And this is just without notice, I had no intention before the show. The building of a squad, what Canterbury have done, David, I don't know whether you've had much to do with some of these young players. They're really impressive humans as well, like young fellas, like Harry Hayes. Met him for the first time last year, Bailey Hayward, who you mentioned. They strike me as really good blokes and very professional. Like whatever's happened there, sometimes you go to sides and you don't hear much, but they've got personality. They speak well.
Yeah.
Canterbury have to be congratulated for what they put together, where it's Gus or Cameron Ciraldo, whoever else is involved with the club. The group of players they have together, I'm watching I believe their defence is real. I've got them top 4 this year. I think as this competition beds down early season, I might be putting them up there. They can win the comp. I'm not saying it yet, But the more I learn about Penrith of 2025 and others, I'm going to say Canterbury might find themselves in a position 6-8 weeks down the track that you're thinking, you know what, they could even win the comp this year. Brandy, is that over the top?
And Vossy,
I just think the group of
that's
players
not-
have got a really good group of players there now.
But that's no coincidence, and a lot of clubs are reflections of their coaches, and this is not a coincidence. And maybe this is something for Parramatta fans to take note of, because you have to get to everything you're saying right now, Vossy.
Yep.
They have had to go through immense pain and a lot of clean out. Like the Dogs have been hauled over the coals for ripping the Band-Aid off on stacks of contracts.
Yep.
And paying out blokes early, getting them out of the club. There's heaps of pain that is involved with that. But in the background has been an attempt to sign players with quality character, good people, strong and coming from strong systems too.
Yeah.
Max King's a great example.
Oh, yeah. Champion.
Out of the Melbourne Storm system.
Yep.
Right? And that's no coincidence that suddenly we're seeing the best of Max King inside an environment. To your point, they're all quality characters. Defence orientated is a reflection of the coach, and it's not a coincidence. It's a strategy for sure.
Team list Tuesday will include Nelson Asafa-Solomona because he was cleared of the hip drop tackle. He played he played in the Queensland Cup over the weekend with Melbourne Storm having a bye, so he was cleared of that charge, David, which means that Big Nelson will return for the Thursday night game against the Panthers, you would think.
You'd think so. It just gets better, really, for the Storm, doesn't it? What a clash that'll be. Hey, Brandy, pretty intrigued to see who plays fullback for Penrith.
Yes. Yeah, I think Dane Laurie will. Without chatting to anyone, Dane's done the job there. John Fanua, who played in the trial matches and New South Wales Cup, as a 25-year-old, and he's an amazing story. But he's been super impressive over the off season. After giving the game away for 3 years and being a star as a junior star, gave the game away for 3 years, returned, played a bit of brothers last year, spent the off season training this year. He's been impressive, and now he can play fullback, wing, centre. He's versatile, but Dane Laurie's done the job in the past, David. So we'll see what happens. Just another one, and just thinking about the Raiders and Jaden Brayley. Jaden Brayley, who signed with the Raiders.
Yep.
Could Tom Starling have made a better start to the year?
Yeah.
And Tom Starling looks like he's not going to be offered a deal, but because Owen Paddy's there and Jaden Brayley is the new number 9, Tom Starling would be a good pickup for any club looking for a
Parramatta.
A 9. Absolutely.
Parramatta.
Yeah. He can do no more. He's been outstanding. And, to be fair, guys, I'm not prepared. Look, it'll totally be up to Starling and the opportunities that are on the horizon if there is other clubs out there. And I'm certain there would be on his performances. But it still wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders attempt to keep him.
Yeah, okay.
And what I mean by that is that they've gone down a path, the Raiders. They have a lot of depth in their key positions. Whenever one of their halves, look, they've got plenty of halves options. They've bought Ethan Sanders from Parramatta. We still haven't seen him yet.
Yep.
And Jamal Fogarty, Ethan Strange. Then you think about the fullback situation. They've got plenty of options there.
Yep.
And to have 3 dummy halves isn't out of the question for the Canberra Raiders. I know it for a fact. I've spoken to them about it. So I'm not ruling a line through Starling staying, but at the same time, Starling would have to weigh up, how much NRL opportunity am I really going to get?
Well, well at the moment, he's the best hooker out of the 3 of them. Like,
tough little bugger, isn't he, too?
Oh, yeah, he's, and so that wouldn't surprise me, David. But talking about him, about those players, when Jaden Brayley signed it a couple of weeks ago, everyone's saying, well, can't have 4 hookers. Danny Levi, I can see him moving on. Tom Starling going, maybe not. Like, but if they're going to sign Jaden Brayley, maybe Tom has to move on. But his form over the first 2 rounds, you'd have to. It wouldn't surprise me if the Raiders go, you know what, we'll keep Tom as well. Anyway, David, I think that's it. I think we've got some arm waving from the crew. Even Chris is waving his arms around now.
So have we covered Brandon Smith? We've ticked off on him.
Have we covered Brandon Smith?
Well, I'm just saying, what are the odds? What would be once Brandon Smith is fit? Would he be surplus to the Roosters' needs? Could any little bit of trading happen this year? Likely or unlikely?
No, I think it all comes down to finances, to be fair. And that's what footy clubs look at when they're releasing a player early.
Yep.
What can it do to help our salary cap, that being the Roosters, if we let Brandon go and do they need to chip in to let him go, etc. So I don't think it's out of the question, Vossy, no doubt in the world. I think that bird has flown as far as that time for Brandon Smith at the Roosters. And look, from what I can tell you, it's in the final throes of negotiation with some suggestions that it could be done as early as this Thursday. So
there you go.
We'll see.
Right.
We'll see. But
All right.
certainly next season for sure, but not 100% yet on this season.
David, I know you'll have your sign-off in a moment, but I'd encourage you to stick around for after the break because we're going to pay a minute's silence to a Bulgarian footballer that they paid a minute's silence to on the weekend who has since been found to be alive. It's an incredible sporting
great story.
It's an incredible story. I'm surprised
I love that.
I'm surprised it's not back page of the Telegraph today, but it's a hell of a comeback. Probably the biggest comeback story in sport. A minute's silence and he's alive. So, David, thank you for coming on the show as always.
Hey, thank you, boys. Go well.